Today we'll discuss about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is an anabolic process. It means it's a constructive process where simple molecules like CO2 and water react in presence of sunlight with the help of chlorophyll molecule. A complex molecule like glucose is formed along with water and oxygen is liberated. Oxygen is liberated. To balance this equation, 6 molecules of CO2, 12 molecules of water are used during photosynthesis and 6 molecules of water are regenerated and 6 molecules of oxygen are liberated. It is an equation for photosynthesis. It's an anabolic process where a simple molecules like CO2 and water react in presence of sunlight with the help of chlorophyll molecules, forming a complex molecule like glucose, and oxygen is liberated as a byproduct. The interesting thing about photosynthesis, which is taking place in green plants, the food which we eat and the oxygen in which we breathe, the fuel which we use for our vehicles, and the clothing which we wear, they are all the products of photosynthesis. Even this photosynthesis, they have given one modern equation. In that modern equation, we'll come to know the elements of these simple molecules, they are involved to form these products. To indicate that they have made a modern equation for photosynthesis. They would give many 4 choices. Which of the following is a modern equation? They would ask the question. You remember the modern equation for photosynthesis. These 6 carbon are here and these 12 hydrogen, totally 24 are there, in which 12 enter into glucose, remaining 12 enter into water, and oxygen present in carbon dioxide here there are 12 oxygen atoms in which 6 enter into glucose and 6 in water molecule and 12 oxygen from water. They are there in oxygen. By this equation, they would ask the question, the oxygen which is liberated during photosynthesis, whether it comes from water or from CO2. The oxygen which is liberated during photosynthesis comes from water as well. It comes from water. By this equation also we will come to know, but actually this was proved by 2 physiologists, Kamin and Rubin, by using a radioactive oxygen. A normal oxygen isotope is O16, but they have made use of O18 oxygen. They have prepared the water. They have prepared the water having O18 oxygen as well. And then the oxygen which is present in CO2 is O16, but they have used it. They have prepared the water having O18 oxygen. And once the reaction took place and the oxygen which is liberated is analyzed, by their analyzation they came to know the oxygen which is liberated is O18. That O18 neither present in glucose nor in water, but it is there only in liberated oxygen. By that, by using radioactive isotope O18, Konnur and Rubin proved oxygen liberated during photosynthesis is coming from water but not from CO2 as well. And now, I just mentioned is an anabolic process. Even photosynthesis is also said to be redox process. Redox process. Why it is said to be redox process? In photosynthesis, both oxidation and reduction are taking place simultaneously. That's why it is said to be redox process. See here, this carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrate and water is oxidized to oxygen. It means both oxidation and reduction are taking place in photosynthesis, hence the name redox process. They would give the statements. Which of the following statements are right as far as photosynthesis is concerned? Where they would give these two are right sentences. Instead of these, they can interchange reduced and oxidized. CO2 is oxidized to carbohydrate, water is reduced to oxygen. Those two, this is A and B, C and D. Those two are wrong. And then, which is the right answer? A and B are right. A is right, B is wrong. C and A are right. Like this, multiple choices will be given. But our answer is A and B are right. Because CO2 is reduced to glucose and water is oxidized to oxygen as well. Here they can make the question. And it is said to be redox process because then they would give the 4 equations in which A and B are the right. There also they can make a NEET question. Okay? Even Konnur and Rubin, about Konnur and Rubin, they would ask the question because by using which isotope they have proved oxygen is liberated during photosynthesis is coming from water by using oxygen 18 isotope. Yes, it's about the process as well. Photosynthesis, it is taking place only in plants because they do have plastids in their leaves. Why the leaves are green in color? Due to the presence of chloroplast, means plastids. Because chloroplast is a green plastid. Green plastid. We do have 3 types of plastids. One is chloroplast, which is green in color, meant for the photosynthesis. Second one is chromoplast, a colored plastid. If you wish to see the colored plastid, that chromoplast that you would see in ripened fruits, the outermost covering of that pericarp, which is having chromoplast as well. And now third one is leucoplast. It is a plastid meant for the storage of fat, and only chloroplast is meant for the process of photosynthesis. If you wish to see all these plastids, you can notice the young fruits of tomato. They are colorless at starting, where their outermost covering of fruit is having leucoplast. And gradually, when they are completely developed, they become dark green, so that leucoplasts are converted into chloroplasts. When those tomatoes get ripened, where green colored chloroplasts are converted into colored chromoplast as well. So that all these plastids we can see in the evolution of the fruit of tomato as well. The young fruits where leucoplast is there. When fruits are completely formed, chloroplasts are there. When the fruits are ripened, we would see chromoplast. You are very familiar with chloroplast. I don't want to draw the structure of chloroplast, but in a quick glance, I will tell about that chloroplast. Chloroplast usually confined in leaves. If the plants are in green color, these chloroplasts are present in stem also. As far as flowers are concerned, the outermost covering of flower is a calyx, which is green in color, having chloroplast, but the roots don't have chloroplast. Chloroplast is a double membrane organelle. Those two membranes are outer membrane and inner membrane. In between them, there is a space. That space is said to be periplastidial space. The inner membrane encloses the inner content. That content is named as stroma. And they may ask a neat question, which is the matrix of chloroplast? Stroma is a matrix of chloroplast. And then in that stroma, we do see there are many lamellar structures, layered structures, where those layered structures are named as thylakoid membranes. Those thylakoid membranes placed one above the other, just like a stock of 1 rupee coins, forming a grana, singular granum. Thylakoid membranes, they are just like a 1 rupee coin. If you place 1 rupee coin one above the other, that would be the stock of 1 rupee coins, that is a granum. That is granum. And all these grana are interconnected by intergranal lamellae. Intergranal lamellae. Even they are also named as stroma lamellae. Other name for intergranal lamellae is stroma lamellae. And as far as photosynthesis is concerned, it is having 2 steps. One is light reaction, other is dark reaction. As far as the structure of this chloroplast is concerned, where we do recognize 2 areas, one is grana and other is stroma. And let us see where actually those 2 steps of process are taking place. 2 steps of photosynthesis. One is light action, even it is also named as photochemical phase and is taking place in grana and also stroma lamellae. Second one, dark reaction. It is also named as biosynthetic phase or Kelvin cycle. Even it is said to be Blackman's reaction. And is taking place in a stroma. The first step, it is said to be light reaction because is taking place in presence of sunlight and is also named as photochemical phase because during the light reaction, the light energy, radiant energy is converted into chemical energy. As the energy conversion from radiant energy into chemical energy, hence it is said to be photochemical phase. Photochemical phase. And the second step is dark reaction. Why it is said to be dark reaction? It is said to be dark reaction because it is independent of light. It is not dependent on light as well. That's why it is said to be dark reaction. And is also named as biosynthetic phase because during dark reaction there is a production of a biosynthesis of glucose. Hence the name biosynthetic phase. As the scientist Kelvin studied the cyclic pathway of dark reaction, hence the name Kelvin cycle. Even Blackman contributed to this reaction. That's why is also named as Blackman's reaction. Once one NEET question was asked, very interesting, multiple choices were given. Dark reaction is so called. Why the dark reaction is said to be dark reaction? The answers were given. First, it is independent of light. Second, it is taking place only during day. Third is, Blackman did work on it. Blackman did work on it. And fourth, none. It is said to be dark reaction because Blackman did work on it. They have made the fun while giving this kind of multiple choice and is taking place during night, not day. The second answer is during night. But that is also not right answer. The right answer is first one. It is independent of light. It is not dependent on light. Even it can take place during day as well as night. If it takes place during day but is not making use of light as well. Remember this point. That's why light reaction takes place only during day because light is necessary. Dark reaction takes place only during night. No, it takes place during day and night. If it takes place during day, is not making use of light as well. And here I have told about these two. Light reaction is taking place in grana and dark reaction takes place in stroma. How they are interconnected, that graphically I will show. See, this is light reaction. It is taking place in grana or grana, plural form. It is in need of light energy, photons. During light reaction, one of the reactants used, that is water, and one of the byproduct formed, that is oxygen. And this is dark reaction. This is taking place in stroma. The reactant used during dark reaction is CO2. The product formed during dark reaction is C6H12O6. Even you can notice here, water is oxidized into oxygen, fair, in grana, and during which process? During light reaction. Whereas CO2 is reduced to carbohydrate, glucose, fair, in stroma, during which? During dark reaction. There also they can make the NEET questions as well. And here light energy enters, water is oxidized to oxygen, and two interesting molecules are formed. Those are, one is ATP, another is NADPH2. ATP, you know about, is a biological currency or energy coin. Adenosine triphosphate, and NADPH2 reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. These two are considered as assimilating powers. They may make the question, which of the following are assimilating power? Remember both ATP and NADPH2. ATP is an energy coin and NADPH2 is a reducing agent. Is reducing agent, is a source for hydrogen. These two are formed during light reaction. As soon as they are formed during light reaction in grana, they will go to stroma where dark reaction is taking place. CO2 gets hydrogen from NADPH2 and gets energy from ATP, so that CO2 becomes glucose. As soon as energy is given, ATP becomes ADP, and ADP will go back to grana. And NADPH2, after giving hydrogen to CO2, it goes back to grana. NADP goes back to grana as well. It's a summary of photosynthesis. Remember, here many things can be asked. By this we will come to know photons. Light energy is necessary only for light reaction, that is in grana, and no light is necessary for dark reaction, that also will come to know. And ATP and NADPH2 are formed where? In grana during the process, light reaction. And then always ATP and NADPH2 are moving from grana to stroma. and ADP and NADPH2 are moving from stroma to grana, and the reactant used in light reaction, that is water. Usually in biology, instead of saying reactant, they used to say substrate. The substrate used in light reaction is water. The substrate used in dark reaction is CO2. The product formed in light reaction is oxygen. The product formed in dark reaction is glucose. It's a summary. If you know this chart, many questions by twisting, if they ask, you are in position to write the answer. Yes, it's about the summary as well. And I was explaining about the structure of chloroplast. I have told about stroma is a matrix, grana which are interconnected by intergranal lamellae. But one more thing I didn't mention there, that is in chloroplast, as it is autocatalytic organelle, is having its own protein synthesizing machinery. That protein synthesizing machinery constitutes ribosome, that is 70S ribosome, piece of DNA, and all the 3 types of RNAs. And now it's time to discuss about light reaction. It is taking place in grana.